And over the last 2 months, I've asked WWE to re-look at my case. And they sent me to the best neurologists all over the country. And all of these neurologists, every specialist, every doctor I've seen has said the same thing, and it is this: you are cleared.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to the Wrestling News Weekly. I am, of course, Nick McDaniel, and as always, I'm joined by my partner in crime, Myron.
Yes, fresh off a day of scuba diving. I spent the day scuba diving in the Lake of Reincarnation and found absolutely no evidence. So, hopefully, we'll be able to come up with a little bit better plot today on the show, because I was thwarted at the Hardy compound. What do you got for us, Nick?
Well, brother, I mean, hell, like, is there any other place we can start than what you heard before the show started, right? A little bit of Daniel Bryan, right?
I think probably everybody that's listened to this show was watching the Daniel Bryan thing. Unless you just hate, the WWE that badly that you wouldn't watch it. But I think a lot of people are excited to see him come back because he represents something pure. He's almost an idealistic hero figure for some people. The small indie guy done good.
Well, man, I mean, when the news broke, I mean, when it hit WWE, it was Facebook, Twitter, everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like a virus, man. It just, it was everywhere. Everybody's excited. I mean, he finally, 2 years it took. And, basically the word was, for months now, he's been, he's cleared by every doctor he's seen. WWE Dr. Maroon is the one who won't clear him. And finally, apparently, that's where he's been for the last few weeks. Is they basically, he gave him 3 specialists.
Oh, he was not at a wedding?
No.
I was sure he was at a wedding. That's what they told me.
Well, I think, believe it or not, there was a wedding. I can't remember there was a wedding involved, but I don't think it takes 2 weeks for the wedding. So,
okay. Well, I was curious.
Yeah. Long story short, he went and saw the 3 specialists. They all cleared him. So Dr. Maroon had no choice but to clear him at that point because those were the 3 obstacles he was going to put in front of him to get it, if one of them, I guarantee one of them doesn't clear him, he doesn't get cleared.
Yeah. Or maybe they've just been kind of saving him till they needed him. And they talked that Dr. Bombay guy into doing it just to get him onto the show. They needed something for Mania.
Well, Mania's been needing something, but the buzz, now, let me ask you a question before we get even into what happened. Luckily, it looks like, Meltzer's reporting that, as far as his schedule, he's not going to be a full-time guy, on the road. And
I would hope not.
Yeah, you would assume not. But that's kind of where they're leaning is he'll be part-time, more or less than anything, where he should be, which is good for his health. Because, as much as anybody, I was watching, the coach on Facebook Live earlier. He did a special, believe it or not, a special Facebook Live thing about this. And he brought up a valid point, man. I know everybody says, you gotta let him wrestle, you gotta let him, this is all he wants to do. I'm hesitantly saying that only because, apparently 3, 4, 5, 6 doctors have cleared him. I guess you're right. You kind of have to let him go.
But, you ain't got to let him do shit.
Well, no, I just meant from, this is the guy's, this is how he makes money. This is his career.
He was making money. Okay, just fine.
But my point is, if he's cleared, he's cleared. But there's a part of you that always has to worry about his health.
Definitely. I think it probably had more to do with the fact that his contract's going to expire, and everybody's like, when his contract expires, he's going directly to Ring of Honor, and that's taking one of the Bellas basically with him. Is she going to want to stay if he goes? I think this is more of a strategic move. They've probably been able to clear him for quite some time, but they just didn't have a reason yet or justification for clearing him.
Well, I mean, if you go back in the archives, we were joined by a gentleman named Conrad Thompson, and we actually had a conversation about this. And he actually expressed that, Daniel Bryan, he felt would be in a wrestling ring again, and it would be a WWE ring, whether it was a shit ton of waivers involved, if it was he got cleared or whoever. But my ultimate statement was Vince McMahon ain't letting him wrestle in any other ring after, Daniel Bryan was arguably one of the greatest wrestlers in the world. But he wasn't Daniel Bryan. He wasn't yes, yes, yes until Vince McMahon, had him on the WWE and WrestleMania 30 rolls around and he has this moment where he wins the championship. I mean, the yes movement, the yes chant has gone across sports. I mean, pop culture, everything. And Vince McMahon ain't going to let the yes movement walk into a Ring of Honor ring and, draw. Cause let's be blunt. We were always saying, didn't Cody throw out there like, come on over to All In. Yeah. We can wrestle. It ain't happening. Vince ain't letting, Daniel Bryan walk out and sell out a 10,000, seat arena for Ring of Honor or for Cody and those guys and give them all the momentum in the world.
Yeah. It's a smart. I'm glad they cleared him. I'm hoping it's a good decision. I would dread to think what would happen if it wasn't. It's, well, they needed this. I mean, it's a shot in the arm right now because honestly, things were just kind of meh for Mania. I mean, I was getting excited for Mania, but it was mainly because of a couple matches, not the whole show or not that Mania season thing I typically get, where it's almost like you get sick with Mania fever. I know that sounds silly, but, I still get like that.
No, I agree. I mean, but, we were joking about it. We'll get there. I mean, the details are irrelevant. Let's go ahead and throw them out there real quick because I want to get to my point. Obviously, he makes his opening statements. He's back at the beginning of SmackDown. He's back. He's going to be cleared. Doesn't know when he's going to wrestle. Yeah. Jump to the end of SmackDown. He obviously has Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn out. He fires them for their actions last week when they attacked Shane McMahon. And then, of course, there's an attack. And, but while he's getting the upper hand on Owens and Zayn, dude, that freaking crowd was going bonkers. And that, we were saying, I said to you, it's like, hey, they've got their star back.
Yeah.
And they needed that dramatically on SmackDown.
Well, SmackDown was faltering, in my opinion. And he's a guy that people will buy into. And he can draw attention to a program. And he can, for lack of a better way to put it, he can kind of save the whole SmackDown show. So I think it's great. He's a charismatic character that people really want to see wrestle.
Well, here's the thing. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I know this. Some people are not going to agree with this. I know your die-hard wrestling fans were just they AJ and Nakamura. It's going to be a phenomenal match, no pun intended. But even AJ and Nakamura, believe it or not, don't get the reaction that Daniel Bryan gets.
Well, they're industry guys. You really need to follow wrestling to basically believe in those guys, for lack of a better way to put it. I thought it was a good thing, that they could get that outside because they don't have a celebrity yet. Have you noticed that? There's not a celebrity yet on this program, so they needed something to hold up the SmackDown side of WrestleMania. I look, and I'm like, what are they doing? Where's? So now they've got a draw. Now they've got a drawback. But let me ask you: is this in case AJ can't go? Is that why you think they did it?
No, I think he's going to be fine. I mean, they're so far out that this is not. Think about it. This isn't the first time that AJ sat out over a weekend. With a nagging knee or a foot or an arm. I just don't buy. I don't buy that. Yeah, I don't buy that he's
that bad.
Injured. No. I think this is all about once the rumbling because the reports were this has been going on for a couple months. So I think they were planting all these seeds over the last few months.
Okay.
Just in case. Because think about it. If Daniel Bryan's not cleared, they're still they're fine. And in the place of the storyline they had, there was nothing short because he couldn't come back. I think this happened last week, and that's why the whole Shane McMahon thing went down the way it did last week. So you get
Shane, who's been taking an indefinite leave.
Well, he's coming back. Let's be blunt. We all know when I saw that thing that he was cleared and Daniel Bryan was going to wrestle, I immediately put it up on Facebook and was like, it looks like we're getting, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon. That's going to be your, I don't want to say your celebrity, but your celebrity match, quote unquote, from SmackDown side is going to be those two. You're going to get Shane O'Mac, who's going to do something insane. And guess what? That means Daniel Bryan doesn't have to, because Shane's going to do it. Shane McMahon's going to take the big bump.
Well, Kevin does those stuff. He typically hits those spots where it's involving chairs and setting up mountains and piles of chairs, and him and Sami keep trying to one up at their last match. I would hate to see Bryan put into some kind of match like that and things go wrong, because that's what those guys do. If Shane is there to take the bump, I'll feel a lot better about it.
Yeah, and that's what we're hoping, right? That's what we get, is that, the crazy bump's going to be Shane. Daniel Bryan gets his moment at WrestleMania. Hopefully, let's be blunt. If they're wrestling those two, they're probably going to lose, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But at least the moment will be that Daniel Bryan's back.
In the ring, in the first match. They'll probably hold him out of an actual match until Mania.
Yeah, I don't think at any point we're going to see, I think the matches you're going to see is Daniel Bryan versus AJ, Daniel Bryan versus Nakamura, Daniel Bryan. It's going to be bigger names. No offense to, he's not, I know they did a segment in the back. Is he going to wrestle Dolph Ziggler? Probably not. He might, but I wouldn't.
Hell, to me, Dolph Ziggler seems like a really good choice, because you're not going to get.
But I meant the name.
Oh no, not for a match.
Yeah, that's my thing. They're going to go. They're going to. If he wrestles, it's going to be high profile and high profile alone, in my opinion. That Daniel Bryan will be involved with.
There's no way he's going to get into some kind of not. What's the word I'm looking for? Not high profile match, for lack of a better way to phrase it.
He ain't going to be a mid card guy by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
But yeah,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
but do you see him as a Cena part timer or a Lesnar part timer?
I would use him more as a Lesnar part timer.
But still have him show up on shows?
Oh, absolutely. He could still be. Something's going to have to give there a little bit. If he's the GM, if he's still the GM of SmackDown, as far as wrestling goes, so that's going to be an awkward. How are they going to pull that off? But we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see. But hey, let's get into some of the other notes, man, because we knew we could talk about Daniel Bryan for the entire hour, but I wanted to get in a couple of notes. It's Hall of Fame season. I think we got. I didn't catch if it was the last person. The crazy thing was, let's go ahead and talk about some of the other news before we get the last person's name. Edge and Christian apparently are going to induct the Dudleys.
I think that's great.
It's fitting.
That's great.
The chemistry with those four guys in the ring was incredible.
Yes.
Edge and Christian will be funny. They do their own podcast, which is hilarious. So I think the induction, the little induction speech will be really funny. It'll be comedy. But then at the same time, they'll give them the due respect that they get.
Yes.
So that's a pretty good call.
I agree 100% on that.
Also, let's come back with because we got another name. I had actually listened. There was an episode of Austin's podcast where he had Diamond Dallas Page on, and he had said that he had heard that Bam Bigelow was going in.
That was a popular word, yes.
Yes, but apparently they're saving him, is what you'd heard that he was going to...
Yeah, I heard they were saving him to put him on the next year when they're in his home state of New Jersey.
Right, and it's a great call. I mean, he'll get, a good pop there.
Yeah. I think that's good. And I think that's going to be a good call. Mark Henry's, this is going to sound horrible, but Mark Henry's alive. And Mark Henry, it will be able to talk, and he can speak, and he'll be able to give a good speech. So I think it's a good choice for now. Good. Bam Bam, like I said, he's no longer with us anymore, and not in his home state, he wouldn't have gotten as big a pop.
Well, I mean, Vince is the story goes that Vince prefers only like one, deceased person in, but in some places he just doesn't want any. He prefers somebody to get up there and do the speech, obviously. But Bam Bam totally, deserves to go in. I've said it for a while. But Mark Henry, dude, don't get me wrong. Mark Henry is a bad man. He's always, one of the funniest promos, angles, whatever you want to call it, was his retirement speech where he suckered in the entire world, cried and had Cena in there, and he basically, at the end, snatches Cena up and slams him, and then they run off. They're off to the races on their feud. But just, the funny part is I'd heard, and I kind of thought this was going to be the last person, because on Cheap Heat, Peter Rosenberg actually mentioned there was somebody he said that was going to be a mage selection. And for those that don't know, Peter Rosenberg's friends with Mark Henry, so it kind of led me to believe that was probably going to be the one.
That's logical. That's a logical choice.
So, but yeah, that's what we're going to say. I mean, dude, he's Olympic weightlifter, Pan Am gold medal, silver medal,
man in the world.
Yeah, strongest man in the world.
I think that was announced as that's the last entrant.
Yeah, I believe it was. Truth be told, there was so much going on.
I haven't seen him say it for sure. I can't really guarantee it.
Yeah. So, but excellent choice to say the least. I mean, in my opinion. So, kudos to Mark Henry. It'll be cool to see Edge and Christian there again, and definitely, I hope they follow through with the selection of Bam Bam next year.
Yeah.
Speaking of Hall of Famer,
yes, there's been a lot of heat this week on a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that right now. We're going to go ahead and talk about the whole women's battle royal, Fabulous Moolah controversy. And we kind of were in I don't want to say unique spot, but it's a different spot.
Yeah.
Because, there's a lot of it. There's the backlash from, the whole fans on Twitter, and then Snickers apparently is being rumored they have pressured them into changing it, obviously. Stephanie addressed it. It's just a weird,
Here's the thing. The internet got fired up and became social justice warriors. And they went out there and they did this. And I really think they did it based on what they had heard. They did nobody, and I'm trying to make this impartial for now. But I think most of the people going after Moolah just did it because somebody told them that. She's bad. And so then everybody went, oh, she's bad because somebody said she's bad. And they just went to town with it. And I don't think that was an appropriate way to handle it.
Well, I'm going to ask you, because the unique situation here is that most of the people, not all, but most of the people that made the accusations are deceased.
Yeah, they're gone. And a friend of the show, Nigel Sherritt, has been talking to and recording interviews, and I've been helping him with some of the stuff, not the talking or anything. Like, I've been looking at audio for him. And he's got some very convincing live people, and a lot of interviews with a lot, not just one or two women. He is collecting a consistent interviews with people that are saying, no, that's not true. No, that was not what happened. I don't think anybody will say that Moolah was not a bit of a hard-ass businesswoman, and she was tight with money. And she had every racket figured out as far as having the training facilities at her house, having the bunkhouses on her property. It was pretty much, she cornered the market. And a lot of people say, oh, she only trained them to be so good. But who has not trained somebody at work that were worried about them becoming better than you were taking your job, so you didn't quite give them the whole speech?
Taught you everything I know, but not everything I know.
I taught you, everything you know, but not everything I know. I can't fault her for that. And apparently, listening to some podcasts about her, I have not listened to the Medusa show yet, Melissa had Leilani Kai on just recently to talk about it. But the business, now, I don't know about the business in that day, but everyone on every show I've listened to has said the business was different. There was not one, every promotion did not have their own women or their own midgets or whatever they had. They were attractions, and the women would tour. And basically, there usually was one person who handled all of the women bookings for the whole country. And at one time, it was Mildred Burke's husband. That didn't work out in the end, and then Moolah took over. And that was the way the women were handled. She did all the booking. She took a booking fee, and she might have been tight on money with them. That's not what she's being persecuted for. She is being persecuted for being a pimp. That's a big deal. Let's not rush to judgment. Let's take the time and listen to what people have to say, and let's see if this is one of the cases where the internet has said something, or one disgruntled or two disgruntled employees have said something, and then it not be the truth. I mean, you're going to shit on your boss most of the time. Everyone here has had a job where they had a boss they didn't like. And I guess a lot of the women that said stuff about her had other issues in their life besides, what came up in the wrestling business. So it's a hard situation. I don't want to rush out and make my judgment, but some of the people I've talked to about this, I respect their opinion. Nigel Sherrod and some of the other people I've talked to knew Moolah, and she had a big effect on their lives. And I really am hesitant to judge till I get the whole story. But the whole story that I'm getting is different than the anecdotes that everybody's out there on Twitter talking about. Because that's just anecdotal evidence.
Well, it's just what the word on the street is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's, tough, but it's controversial, but, keep your eye out. There may be something down the road. We're going to kind of just drop the hint here that there might be something down the road on the network. So keep your eye out. You'll probably hear a little bit more about this. But speaking of controversial figures, I want to jump forward here and ask you a little bit about, Ryback's got two things that he was kind of in the news for that I wanted, because that's what he does. He was Ryback. He's always good for a quote. We have him on, as far as, in our notes, probably every couple of weeks there's something he said, on his podcast or something. Yes. This week there was two things that happened.
The authority. Ryback, the authority on wrestling.
Exactly. So first one, they brought up the whole dual brand pay-per-views. Obviously after Mania, we're going back to both, shows on one pay-per-view, no more split brand thing. He basically said he thinks it's a good move, which is, I agree.
I do agree with Ryback on this. This is the first time.
He's like, the drawback is obviously it kind of does suck for some of the mid-card guys. It'll be hard to get on a show. We won't have Fastlane.
I disagree with Ryback on this.
And I'm going to agree with him because, but by listening, because I actually listened to it. It wasn't just a, read. It wasn't in the sense of this sucks or, it was more of like the pro is it's a good move overall. The con is, there'll be less matches, so less guys will be on the pay-per-view, it's a fact. It is true. I don't think he was saying that this is awful because they're not going to be on there. But at the same time, I think we both probably think that that's a plus. Mm-hmm. Because then you don't have to have, XYZ fights.
4 weeks to get a storyline. Maybe 3.5 on sometimes because the things are going nuts. You got to run another storyline. Bam. Get a feud. Start a feud on Monday night after the pay-per-view. Have it for the payoff at the pay-per-view. And then have something to go by the next pay-per-view. And I don't like it. They've not been able to develop accurate storylines since the brand split. And the fact they had a pay-per-view every month. Or every month and a half, basically. No, it's been detrimental because storyline is what makes people watch. Okay, if you want to watch just wrestling, there's a lot of promotions that just do wrestling. But in order to get a crowd that's loyal and pays attention to every show and to get as big time as the WWE now, you have to have the storylines. And they'll have more time to develop the storylines, in my opinion.
Well, ultimately, I agree with you. I think that's the hope is that you don't have to rush a story. If you're only 2 or 3 weeks into a story, it doesn't have to be a match. It can be at the next pay-per-view. It can be a match. And if you're running all these angles across, both shows, only the ones who are ready for the match at the pay-per-view have to go. Obviously your titles are going to be on there, but you don't have to.
Well, see, this way you can have one world title match for the big title, one U.S. or Intercontinental title match, and one tag team match.
Dude, go ahead and let's be blunt. We already know we're heading back to the day those belts are fucking merging again.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I'm gonna wait and see how they plan on doing this, because I can't judge. I can't guarantee.
Because let's be blunt, you're going to defend both world titles. The Universal and the WWE are going to be on every pay-per-view. I think that's a given. Every month both of those belts are being defended, because there's no way they're going to let the one title not be on a card. Otherwise, they'd be doing the split brand still.
We'll see.
Anywho, so anyway, yes, I kind of agree with Ryback there. Then the other one that got a little bit of controversial, Jesus. I went from agreeing to the shaking my head before I could even get the thought out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Lana and Rusev had a live Q&A they were taking part in, and apparently Ryback slid into the Q&A and asked if he was involved in the John Bravo steroid scandal, and Rusev's response was basically he ended the Q&A and said that the fans could thank Ryback for it being over, and click.
That was the perfect way to handle it. That was the company way to handle it. You got out of it. You didn't say something to Ryback that would cost you your job. And you didn't acknowledge him. You didn't basically acknowledge him and comment on what he had to say. It was a good time for me. It was a really, that's a good choice. Anybody who's ever worked for a company where somebody's wanted you to get a press quote and you basically no commented because that's what they told you to do, that's what he did. And why justify something that asinine? Rudolph isn't all cut up. He's a big guy, but he's not all ripped up and veined out like some of the steroid type.
No, he's just he's a thick dude.
Yeah, he's a big guy. He's a phenomenal athlete. Why would he accuse? I don't understand why he would accuse, unless it was, Rusev, unless it was just, I see an opportunity to mess with somebody on the main roster.
That was probably it.
Did you see that video that guy put out, that Johnny Bravo?
I did not watch it. I know you.
Okay, I watched the whole thing. It was stupid to the point it almost was like some kind of fictional program. Like he was trying to put himself as this, I am an investigative journalist, and I'm sitting at my desk in my very tight-fitted white T-shirt, and I've got my microphone hanging where you can see the microphone as I'm talking. And I'm and I'm looking at all these files, and there's a lot of stuff on the computers that the government seized, and they still haven't released yet. But I've got a phone with some text messages, and I've said again here lately, everybody's text messages like they're the gospel. Well, they're not. Anybody can fake a text message. You need two guys with iPhones, and all of a sudden you can screen capture text messages that say anything with anybody's name on them. Not a big deal.
Right.
They're not evidence in my opinion
and
at all.
The hysterical part, somebody tried to tell me, you could do it with a phone number if they don't have a name on it. You can do it with a phone number. And I'm like, you do realize I could type your number as your name.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
People, I don't get that. I don't get why they think it's evidence. So he goes on. He's talking about this. And he links it to Jesse the Body Ventura and the fact that one guy that was buying steroids used the name Jesse Ventura, even though his name was not Jesse Ventura. That was his assumed name he used to buy steroids. That proves nothing. That just proves you're selling steroids to people with assumed names.
Yeah. Well, I did, I didn't watch it because once I caught there was a little bit of a recap of it, and it basically said it proved nothing.
It proved less than nothing.
So I was like,
it proved this guy's an attention whore, and he had something, and this is all he could come up with. He had this opportunity, and he had no evidence. He talked about Roman Reigns, and then at the end, there was this weird Ultimate Warrior tribute. Like, why? We're at the end of the steroid video, exposing, quotation marks, exposing people that purchase steroids. We're going to give a tribute to the biggest lunatic steroid freak there was. It was stupid.
I don't know if he's the biggest.
Well, dexterity.
Because we're about to talk about a guy that we didn't mention in the Hall of Fame thing that could maybe argue that, right? I don't know how I forgot this during the Hall of Fame conversation, but Hillbilly Jim apparently is saying he wants Hulk Hogan to induct him, easy for me to say, into the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
My notes
and
said
any other
thoughts.
If things weren't the way they are now with Hogan would be the only choice, because Hogan was the guy that made him. He was the guy that was responsible for Hillbilly Jim. Now, I know Hillbilly Jim was a wrestler before coming to WWE, and Hillbilly Jim was a plant in the crowd. It was a work.
Seriously?
Yes, the whole thing was a work, but they used Hogan to put him over, and Hogan put him over, and bingo, Hillbilly Jim wouldn't be where he is without Hogan.
So let me ask you a question then. Why not Hogan? Has he not paid his...
Well, that's the thing. There's no, he didn't get a sentence. He didn't get, okay, you said the N-word, so you need to go away for 3 years. You get 18 months. He didn't get a sentence. He got a social justice sentence, for lack of a better way to put it. He could only come back when people would forget about it or forgive him. And I don't know if the time is right for that. Especially, this is a really controversial WrestleMania season. Bringing Hogan back may not be the choice. But it won't make any sense unless he inducts him.
I think they should.
You think they should?
Absolutely.
I don't have a problem with Hogan anymore. He said some shitty things during that hurricane about people, but it's Hogan. Like you said, he's probably jacked so full of steroids in so many years. He's fried his little brain, and his thermos rules isn't. He actually has ceded control of his brain to his thermos.
Well, because here's my thing at this point. I get it if you don't want to have him on WWE, like Raw, Smackdown, pay-per-view. Hall of Fame to me is a little bit different. Just, he comes out there, short and sweet, do the induction, and then get off stage.
Well, they did it with Cornette. They let Cornette come out and do something like that.
Cornette's not one that, he's shot his mouth off.
He's still saying shit. Exactly. Even after being up there. But, if they let Hogan get his thermos in the door, are they going to see how it goes and maybe keep him around?
Maybe.
I gotta hope he don't wrestle again. He's too old for that.
No, I don't think he's going to wrestle again, and I think that's a whole other argument. I just meant it doesn't make any sense, for anybody else to do it. But wrestling, we're going to leave that to guys like somebody who had recently in an interview mentioned the Hall of Fame, mentioned the return, and that's one Dave Bautista, Drax himself.
This is a very interesting take on this, because we were talking about this earlier.
Yeah, because I'm going to ask you the dumb question. Why the hell would he want to come back? He's freaking Drax and, Guardians of the Galaxy making...
Well, and he's also in the James Bond movies, and he's one of, I would say, 3 successful actors in the recent generations to come out of the WWE. Him and Cena and The Rock, who is the most super over. But he's also getting, I would consider the role he's getting in the Shazam movie to be less than what Bautista has in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Well, yeah, but then, when they're asking him, because they're talking about, wrestling and all that, and he said, yeah, he'd love to come back for the right creative and the right, he'd be in and deal. He's even, apparently, he I don't know if it's exact, because it wasn't his words, but from what I took from what he said, he basically said he hadn't accepted any nominations to the Hall of Fame because he doesn't think his career's over. Well, that means clearly they've called and asked, right?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. But, there's no proof of any of this because the Hall of Fame is not unofficial. Yeah. Now, I was always under the impression that he was not really that infatuated with wrestling.
It seems as though, when he got into it, he wasn't. Because I've heard him on Jericho and I've heard him on other podcasts. And he wasn't, when he first got in, but I think it got in his blood, and it seems like now maybe he's more into it that he's not in it than he was when he was in it.
Well, maybe he just misses it,
Hey, Jericho will tell you that's why he loves being in the band as well, but on Jericho's podcast, he did say he does miss the live reaction. There's no substitute, because you got to think about it. If you make a movie, you make the movie, you're gone. They're editing and posting and all, post-production and all that. It's freaking months, if not years, before the movie comes out, and you're already probably working on something else at that point. So there's no gratification out of like, oh, it did really great, awesome.
And you probably forgot what you did because, I can't remember what I did at work a year ago.
Exactly, and that's my point. So for him, with wrestlers, and like I said, like Jericho and the Rockstar, the whole. You get that instant, the crowd is, the pop, it's something that you get, and it's an instant gratification, and I think that's what they miss.
Well, that's understandable. That right there is understandable. I'd love to see another run out of him.
Yeah, look, the WWE, looks like they're trying to, is it just me lately, or are they trying to pull some of the older guys back, and
they're trying to pull out the people that sold. The people that drew money are the ones they're trying to get to come back. And that's understandable because it's making money, but it's not drawing ratings and things like that.
Well, we're going to have to do a whole show on the business side of it because I would argue to say that people like, hell, here we go. I'll throw it in just real quick because we want, I heard, it was a great point that Bruce Pritchard brought up on Something to Wrestle, that he made the comment of him and Eric Bischoff had a conversation, and they try to make the arguments. If you saw the ratings for Raw and you saw the ratings for Nitro and you added them together, then they're like 8 million people were watching wrestling on Monday night.
Yeah.
They both believe that that's a falsehood. They believe,
they do?
Yes, they do. Because what they believe happened during that era is so many people were going back and forth that the ratings were picking up the same person watching both, shows.
I never thought about that.
And that it was like, is it 100% double overlap? Probably not. They said it was probably, though, they truthfully believe that if you took the higher number of the two shows, that's how many people were probably watching wrestling that night.
That makes a lot of sense because I remember the times. And I remember burning the remote control up, going back and forth.
Because they make the jokes of it, and correct me if I'm wrong, you remember back in history, they try to tell you like, oh, well, you were waiting, and then if something else happened, or they go to a commercial, you would hop over. Dude, I didn't wait till the commercial was on.
No, I was going back and forth.
Yeah, I would click over and see, was there something better on right now? And if not, I'd go back. So, yeah, I could see myself on both channels within a span of, a couple of minutes, several times.
And if they talk about WCW, they were always putting they were going for that 15-minute mark to get the ratings. And I could logically been on both channels while they were measuring. Yeah. I'd get them on the remote control, get the two different shows set into the memory, and beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop, back and forth.
It's the old last button on the control. You just, and it goes back, and then last, and it goes back, and last, and it goes back. Exactly. Anyway, we digress. We weren't trying to get into a business thing, but because we were talking about people coming back.
That's a fascinating concept, though. I have never thought about that.
And I had not either. But when he said that, I sat there and nodded my head, thinking, "Yeah, I was on both channels within a span of a minute."
Yeah, and if the match wasn't going the way I liked, or somebody I didn't like, I might stay for a little bit longer on the other show. But I was always going back to the.
Yeah, you're constantly going back and forth. Ask Rachel. I can't stay on a channel for more than a couple minutes anyway.
I can't watch regular TV because my attention span is so shot that I am always flopping back and forth to something else.
Exactly.
Or looking at my phone. So maybe I'm a victim of the Monday Night Wars.
Maybe
I'm a
that's
casualty of the Monday Night Wars.
Well, let's jump and get back on track here. There's another deal coming apparently to television at some point, we hope, because one of the guys we were talking about, WWE trying to get back into the fold, obviously, is Rey Mysterio, and this deal apparently, we're being told, is not going to affect his negotiation somehow with WWE. I don't know how, because he's entered into a deal with Aro Lucha. It's a Nashville-based, family-friendly, promotion. There's some stuff up. If you actually Google them, you'll find them. There's a video up, like of a highlight reel that they've put together. They did a little pilot. They shot it back in December. They don't have a TV deal yet, but they do want to hopefully start shooting in May and June. And here's the coolest thing. We haven't even discussed this. They're actually wanting to sell, like, to the general public, like pieces of the company. Like, you'll be able to buy into it.
Okay, are we talking about NASDAQ? Are we talking about the stock market?
Oh, knowing our luck, it's probably a Patreon or something.
Oh yeah, I'm going to send a wrestling company a check, and they're gonna just give me a part of it.
Exactly, it'll be like a dinky part, but it'll be like my percentage, because I'm a WWE stockholder. It'll be like my percentage of stock for the WWE stock. Like,
how about this? How about this? We offer our podcast service to these people. We're like, we'll trade stock in your company for press. We'll do all of your social media and your press work and your publicity for a piece of your company. I don't think that's unreasonable.
Dude, I'm super excited. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I watched the highlight reel. It would look pretty cool. Uh-huh. I mean, you got names like MVP, Johnny Mundo, James Storm, Hurricane Helms, Ribby Hardy, Taya Valkyrie, Willie Mack. I mean, obviously Rey Mysterio. And then another man that we're going to talk about next here, when Konnan is even kind of coming in and going to be working on the...
Hold on. Now, you said they were in Nashville?
Nashville-based, yeah.
What are they, in the old TNA office?
I don't believe so.
Because this is a lot of TNA people.
Could be. It's a mixture of Lucha Underground. But let's digress here, because Jesus, we're going to run over dramatically on the show, or we're just not going to talk about a lot of stuff that was on my notes. But Lewis, dude, has been pushing this Lucha Underground versus Impact show that's going to be on Twitch. It's like WrestleMania week. If you want to hear a really in-depth talk about it, check out the Pro Wrestling Personified podcast, the Impact edition, that released on Sunday this week. You can check it out because he's talking about some of the matches they've announced for it and stuff. And he's been talking about it for a couple weeks. And of course, Lewis covers the shit out of Impact, right? Nobody does it better.
He's got me interested in this concept, and I think it's going to be cool. Lucha Underground doesn't do the live type stuff. There's the pre-recorded storyline. So now they're going to have the opportunity to do live wrestling. They've got a lot of good talent. They've got a lot of talent overlap with other promotions. And I'm going to get to watch it right here on my computer for free.
Yeah.
I don't think, honestly, I don't think there's a better deal right now. I think it's great.
I 100% agree with you. I mean, their ratings are up. I mean, we're not going to talk a ton about Impact, but they were up this week, 350 from 325. Mm-hmm. So that was good. I mean, they're heading in the right direction. They're doing some really cool things. I mean, their champion popped up on Ring of Honor television. You know what I mean? They're getting around. They're working with Lucha Underground. They're obviously tearing up the Canadian scene, bringing all those guys in. And we've had several of those guys on the show. Go back in the archives. I mean, Sheldon Jean. He's one on there. Tyson Dukes. I mean, it's just on and on and on. Go back and check it out. There's some cool interviews to get. But just real quick before we get too far, I do want to give share a little bit of love for Konnan. I know he had a hip replacement surgery. 7 days in the hospital. They're talking 9 weeks on antibiotics. You knew how serious that could be.
Yeah, 9 weeks on antibiotics mean they're really worried about some kind of infection.
Well, apparently they're saying that, if this doesn't heal up right, he'll have to have another surgery. So, I mean, they're probably, I know he's done, I believe this is his third hip surgery.
Oh, that's probably why. Because, a standard hip replacement is they've almost got it to a outpatient procedure.
Well, the problem I think that it stems back to is back in his WCW days, he had one, I believe, or something like that, and he tried to work through it. It might have been Impact, I can't remember, but I remember kind of vaguely that he had a surgery, tried to work through it, and basically the hip kind of worked its way loose. So he had to have another one, which probably caused some issues or whatever. But most people aren't aware of this, though. I mean, before the Tapped Out podcast, before the whole network existed, I was a huge fan, and still, I don't lie, I still listen to several of the shows on the MLW network.
Oh, God, yeah.
And one of my favorite shows was they had their main show. It was Court Bauer, it was Konnan, and MSL, which I still talk about today, because, I mean, all three of them I'm a huge fan of. And just, much love for Konnan, and I know now he's keeping it 100 over on the Jericho network. And I still listen to that show because I'm a big fan of his and Disco Inferno's chemistry. So anyway, but we just wanted to share a little bit of love for Konnan real quick.
He's a big name in the wrestling business, and apparently, I've heard stories of him in Mexico when he was in his prime, riding around in Ferraris and everything, and Lamborghinis. He was that big a draw in Mexico.
Well, just recently on What Happened When, I mean, Tony Schiavone was talking about he basically was the Hulk Hogan of Mexico.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, man, before we run out of time, let's go ahead and jump into a little bit of Raw action, and then we'll kind of I'll give you a chance if there's anything I missed, but I want to get it straight into this because we're running out of time. Obviously we were talking about John Cena comes out. We've already talked about a couple of those things, but John Cena kind of healing it up a little bit of a la the Rock. Back when he had that feud with The Rock, he had to go a little bit of heel, basically just kind of to call him out, to get him out there. Cause, kind of we're right. I'm like, dude, we're freaking 3 weeks away and we still don't have an answer from the Undertaker. Kane answer.
They're building it. Yeah. They're building the drama. And the Kane answer, it's like Kane comes down. I'm like, oh, well, that's not who I wanted to come out. I'm not disappointed in Kane, but it just wasn't who I wanted to see, and so it just wasn't as good to me. But you think they're going to go with Kane if Taker doesn't show up?
Obviously, Taker's coming. I think we've gone so far into the, too deep in the pool for him not to come. But my question is, obviously the big question flying around, is it going to be the dead man Undertaker? Or are we getting American Badass, Undertaker, because Kid Rock's going to be there, going to play up on the stage. We're going to get all of that. So is that what we're going for?
I can't see any other way they're going to do it, because having Kid Rock there, it's just too much of a coincidence, It's like, I'm a hero, whatever. The song was, I can't remember the words of the song. It was something.
I'm a cowboy.
Yeah. No, that's the wrong guy.
No. He's got a cow. That does say that. I'm not going to lie to you. We had this argument last week. I'm a Kid Rock fan, and I'm not even a closet Kid Rock fan.
No, he has some good stuff. He has a lot of shit.
No.
And I'm not with him 100% on politics, but he has some really good songs.
Well, let's go with lesson number one. I never care anybody's actors, singers, musicians, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I could care less what you think of politics.
But,
I'm more older Kid Rock. I'm not as big a fan of the new country Kid Rock, but his rap and rock stuff, I was always, big fan
when he first came out, in the first 10 years he was out, he was great.
So, but Badass, or do we want, see, and I'm torn because I kind of agree with Bruce Pritchard here. Do we really want American Badass? Or, don't we, the last image we see of Undertaker, shouldn't it be Dead Man Undertaker?
Well, Dead Man Undertaker retired. And honestly, I was kind of a fan of American Badass Undertaker.
Dude, I love American Badass. Don't get me wrong, but that's not the point. Is the last sight you want to see American Badass, Undertaker?
how so it's going to be the last time we see it. I mean, apparently they're going to keep bringing him out after his retirement.
Yeah, that's probably true. But
yeah, let's see. It's Undertaker. It's the same guy. He's still the Taker. He's still one of the greatest all time. Let's just let it go. Let it work out. See what happens.
I'm still excited we're getting this match, by the way. Regardless, I mean,
yeah, it's going to be a phenomenal match. He doesn't care what he's dressed up like. He could come back as Mean Mark Callis,
Master of Pain with the mask.
Master of Pain. I wouldn't give two shits about that.
Yeah, Texas Red. Let's keep going backwards.
Yeah, get to see Undertaker at Mania.
I mean, maybe he got thrown. There you go. Maybe he got thrown into the lake of reincarnation.
I think he pretty much spends all his time in the lake of reincarnation.
Well, let's go out of order then, because let's jump into that. So we finally got to see the lake of reincarnation, the whole Hardy compound with ultimate deletion on Raw.
Yeah.
We did a poll because I was curious as to what people thought about it. And I was a little bit generous because I said awesome, liked it, okay, and hated it. So 3 of them were pretty positive at minimum, but 75% either said it was awesome or they liked it.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to take the avenue. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I just wasn't as big a fan of it as I was the Impact TNA whatever version of the Ultimate Deletion, the Hardy compound, et cetera, et cetera. I really especially dug the one where they had all of the tag teams come in, and you had the Rock and Roll Express and all that kind of, that to me was like the ultimate.
That was really cool. But, you got the WWE version. You got the better camera work. You got the special effects, the higher production quality. When they had Bray Wyatt and Matt weaving in and out between those crazy tombstones, that was beautiful. That was awesome. It had more of a theatrical feel. And, the first time you saw a Deletion, it was absolutely mind-blowing because you'd never seen anything like that in wrestling. And then the WWE pulled that remember when the New Day went out to the Wyatt's compound? Like right during the Deletion.
Oh, no, yeah, I remember. Yeah, I'm trying to forget.
So,
but it's the backwoods mugging.
Yes, it was. I was just sitting there like, this is like Mississippi Burning or some shit. Why in the hell are they doing this? It was odd, but you got a thing. You got the WWE production levels. You got a good. It was a good episode. It was well written. When they flipped the boat over and Senior Benjamin was under it, and he tossed a globe to Bray Wyatt and started singing "He's Got the Whole World in His Hands" like Bray Wyatt liked to sing. And Brother Nero popped in, hit the next verse. Bray's totally distracted, and he gets pinned. And then Matt runs him into the lake of reincarnation with a boat paddle.
And of course, now
he does not come out.
He does not come out. They don't find the body. Jesus, I can't believe I just said that on a wrestling podcast. But they don't find the body of Bray Wyatt. And of course, now the rumors are flying around that Meltzer is one of the ones saying it's probably repackaging time for Bray Wyatt.
He got it coming.
Love the character. It would just book so poorly.
Yes.
And he just lost every bit of steam that he had at some point. And it's probably right. It's probably time to repackage him some way, form, or fashion. Whether he comes back and he's a Woken family member or what.
He's a very talented wrestler.
Yeah.
He's a big man that's very athletic. He moves well. He moves like a man half his size.
Well, he's got moves.
He got to get that haircut. Get them damn dreadlocks cut off. I think in the end, this will be the best thing that ever happened to him.
I hope so. I mean, hopefully they'll get it right and they'll steer it right, and we'll get at least heading in the right direction. But so we'll see. But time will tell. I mean, obviously they're not going to be at Mania. It looks like, which who knows? Maybe he will be.
He will reappear before Mania.
He could be a battle royal guy. He could be an Andre, competitor.
They might save it for something. They might save him for some kind of.
He could return at Mania.
Yeah, he could return at
Something
Mania
like
with some kind of big gimmick, or have something happen. They got this. Okay, they got this planned out, and I think this will be for the good.
Well, speaking of Mania, let's go ahead and some of the big things that are going to come down at Mania is, for one, on Raw, we finally see Brock Lesnar as he basically street mugs a handcuffed Roman Reigns. Although, I said this on Twitter, didn't essentially Brock Lesnar just save those U.S. Marshals that Roman Reigns?
Brock Lesnar, American hero. A man came out, violated his suspension, and attacked officers of the law. And a brave hero runs out with his pudgy little advocate and saves them. I mean, if you did not know who was supposed to be the heel and who was supposed to be the face, if this was your first time turning on a wrestling program and you saw that, you would think Roman was the heel. And Lesnar saved those people. You're 100% right.
But you felt all kind of sympathies once the Germans started coming, the chair started swinging, and the stretcher started flipping.
Yeah. It was like, well, he saved those nice officer friendlies, and then he just absolutely beat the hell out of Roman Reigns. Also, I don't think Roman Reigns is a true Samoan, because I was under the belief that Samoans could break handcuffs.
Yeah, and
that's what I've always heard.
That's what we've heard, and I'll tell you what, he never, ever wants to be strapped to a stretcher again. Because he has the absolute worst luck between Brock Lesnar tossing him around and Braun Strowman a while back throwing him off of a loading deck, or loading dock, whatever the hell it's called.
Did you see Roman's wrists, though, after that whole thing went down?
Yeah.
They were legit bruised up bad.
It's because that chair, man. I was like, those chair shots were brutal.
Yeah, that, and he's getting suplexed with those hands, and it's beaten up. Yeah, it was a beatdown, man. It was an epic beatdown.
Yeah, now, is it any worse than the one? We're going to get to in a second here, but yeah, that's just. But does that lead you to believe, obviously, the heat goes on Brock, so eventually, obviously, we get the Mania and Roman picks up the W? Probably.
There's a higher than average chance that's going to be what happens.
Yeah.
Because, what's the word? They've been basically planning this for so long.
They've been trying to get here for 2 years.
Yeah, it's a big show. It's a really big deal, and they wanted this, and they developed this, and they worked towards this, and they're getting their prize.
Well, you said a word here, and I agree with you. But let's jump to the next topic real quick, because you said, we'll get to what word triggered it. Braun Strowman obviously has been told he decimated the tag team division on Raw, won the Battle Royal last week, and now this week he says, he finds out he's gonna get a shot at the tag titles against the Bar. He's just got to find a partner. And then, of course, the storyline is that who wants to tag with him? And then Corey Graves basically got a great point. Who wouldn't want to be his tag team partner? Because you basically are almost guaranteed you're going to get a tag team title, because
you're also pretty much guaranteed you're going to get hit.
Yeah.
He's not the kind of guy who's plays well with others right now.
But he's got to have a partner, and that's the rules. He destroyed, which we won't even get into the whole how easily he manhandled both of those guys on, the Bar, obviously. But is it Elias? Is it somebody else? Who does he pick as his partner?
They had him in a match with Elias after the Deletion came on, and the people in the arena were watching. They were watching the.
Yeah, they gave him something to watch.
Something to watch.
Yeah.
Ronda beat Dana Brooke up, and then so they had Strowman and Elias. I don't know the details on it, but now that was a good rivalry with Elias. Do they want to? Well, that could actually make the rivalry hotter by putting in a match like that. and have Elias catch and cost him the match or make a mistake. There's a lot they could do with it.
Dude,
now I'm excited about it.
I got a better
thought
option.
my way into excited.
I got a better option. We've talked about this off air, man. There's a guy that's been saying he's kind of getting a little bit of an itch to come back. I say pull the slim down, fist throwing, because get these hands. How about that as a tag team? Big Show and Braun Strowman.
Well, that's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot.
That's a lot of mass.
And, you know, they've worked together a lot.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be a hell of a team to try to take the belts off of. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, oh yeah. It would be interesting to see. It'd give Big Show a title run, pretty much a guaranteed title run. And then you'd have to come up with a tag team that could slay the Beast.
Yeah.
The Beast.
The Beast, both of them. And think about it. They both got the hands, you know, because Big Show's got the punch. And then, of course, you know, get these hands as Braun's little catchphrase or whatever.
You know, and when you think about it, they also they're going to do a shakeup, and that shakeup's going to give a lot of opportunity for new tag teams and different things to be happening. Yeah, this is interesting. I really think this has got a lot of possibilities.
I'm sold on it. That's my theory. And it may not be him, but that's who I would draw. And of course, before we get out of here, the man, the Magic Mike, right? The Miz. I mean, just keeps cutting his promos, doing his heel promos. I mean, this week he's had a really good week. I mean, you had this one, where he comes out, cuts the thing, and he talks about Tyler Black, Seth Rollins, obviously his old name, and then he mocks Prince Nevitt, which was actually Devitt, which was
I like that.
Yeah, which cracked me up a little bit. And he started talking about bingo halls and Too Sweeten and then my
Too Sweeten like a bunch of nerds or dorks or
whatever. Yeah, but that just cracked me up. And then I don't know if you caught, they asked him about Daniel Bryan's return, because obviously the heat that they had before they split them on two different shows, right?
Oh yeah.
All he did, which you can't see this, it's a visual. He basically just does the little golf clap when they asked him about Daniel Bryan's return. And I'm like, we're heading to this. Don't get me wrong.
We'll get that.
I'm hoping somehow, some way, Intercontinental and U.S. switch back and the shake-up, and you got Miz over there with Daniel Bryan, so that they can follow up on that. But that's just my opinion.
So we got a little bit of booking done tonight.
We got
WrestleMania closer. I think probably by the time WrestleMania gets here, we'll have the whole card. Me and you.
Hope so.
Remember last year? I mean, you booked the whole last run of the Undertaker, start to finish last year, and it was what you basically said when it went down.
Well, it happens. We get lucky from time to time, but Well,
you watch enough wrestling, you're going to figure something out.
Yeah, you'll figure it out eventually.
Yeah.
But what else you got, man? I'm out. My notes are all clear. I mean, what else you got?
Yeah, we got through everything a little faster than I thought it was. Oh, how about the news that the XFL it's got a competitor now? Did we get to that?
We did not. I think it's more than competition, actually. I think it could be the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, the former partner between the XFL, Dick Ebersol, and his son, and some investors have put together a competitive product that's going to launch a year before the XFL launches, and it's also got a TV deal already
with
on
CBS.
A network.
Yeah, CBS. And and I will tell you, some of those investors, by the way, when I think they have the biggest challenge to face, it's actually like NFL players. Like Jared Allen and some other former football players are actually involved.
Well, NFL is the biggest sports league in the country, but it's not exactly popular as far as the way it's run and the people, the commissioner and the different things like that. People don't care for it. They don't care for Roger Goodell. They don't care for the way things happen. So there's a legitimate chance that this could take off. And we're in a position where we might be watching a different professional football league. But do we need 2 different professional football leagues that launch within
that's our problem.
a year of each other?
I think
it's not just our problem as much as it's Vince's.
I think it's Vince's big problem because I think launching a year earlier, having a TV deal, all the above, and it's in the spring. It's going to be after, same exact time I think XFL wants to run. Mm-hmm. It's just done. With Dick Ebersol involved and,
Do you think Dick did this for vengeance?
Man, I don't think it's, vengeance. I don't know how this even happened. And how does, as supposedly as they, they're not friends, I guess, per se. Maybe it's not the word I'd use, but they've worked together so many times. How this conversation didn't happen? How did they not know?
Yeah, especially after he went all in. Vince pretty much went all in on this. And
although
that TV deal didn't pop up overnight.
No. Although I'm convinced there's still a part of me that believes that Vince was never going to start the XFL.
It was a distraction for him to be able to sell some stock off?
Yep. I still haven't been convinced.
That theory was batted around.
Yeah.
And it's a logical theory that he just did this to sell his stock without dropping the price of the rest of the stock.
Yeah, out of his pocket to keep all of his other stock that he has in there, still keeping the value of it. He had to pay for some trademarks and some sort of big whoopity-doo. And then, he had to pay
got a legal team on staff.
Well, but you still have to file. You have to file for the trademark. So, the fees to do it. And then, of course, you're going to have the cost of the press conference and any little stuff he did, but it still saved the value of the other stocks that he still has in there, which are substantial. So,
I saw a pie chart yesterday, and he was the biggest piece of pie by a long shot.
You can't even see my piece of the pie when you look at that pie chart. I'm sure you can say like Nick McDaniel,
Yeah, your sliver was missing from the charts.
I got a crumb.
Triple H had like less than 1%, and that shocked me.
Well, he's getting paid. He's not necessarily stock.
Well, he's also married to the second.
Yeah.
And then Linda and
he's getting plenty of pie, I'm sure.
Well, about pie.
Yeah. So
it's a family business, and then you got guys like Kevin Dunn that's got a huge chunk.
Well, they all got a lot of that. Even Jim Ross, he'll talk about that. That when they were going public, that was kind of their big thing. Was they got a big opportunity on the ground floor. So
get a good payoff, man. That's awesome.
Absolutely. So, but anywho, speaking of getting paid off, right? What else you got, man?
Our sponsors, our fine people at the Fight app, providing you quality wrestling and sports entertainment. On your phones, any mobile device on your computer. You got our good people over at Amazon that if you use our link for Amazon, we get a kickback and you get to purchase something for no extra fee while supporting your favorite podcast.
And all of that can be found if you just go to tappedoutpod.com. Both links there to the Fight app and to Amazon are both there. Of course, the media players there, all the places you can find us. iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera.
If you're a wrestling fan and you're not going to Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network website, was it www.tappedoutpod.com?
You just type Tapped Out Pod now. That www thing gone away decades ago, brother.
Yeah, well, I like to say the www.
Yeah.
But it's all the podcasts, all the sponsors, pictures of Lewis. Not a lot of pictures of Lewis out there. He's very secretive. All kind of great stuff.
Oh, and by the way, if anybody, I also keep it up there. There's a link. There's a picture to the Mercury Pro Wrestling Academy.
Yes. Out
in Golden, Colorado, Denver, Colorado area. If you're looking for a good school, always recommend it. Obviously, train hard enough. You'll make it. They got an opportunity for you there to be on the Fight app on Rocky Mountain Pro. So I always say if you're looking for a good school, it's a great one to click on right there in the middle on the page at tappedoutpod.com. Yep. So check out that. Mercury Yaden and those guys out there do a phenomenal job, trust me.
Oh, yeah. I agree 100%.
Yeah. And then, of course, when we tell you to subscribe to all these other places, it's because we want you to catch out all the other shows, man. We got Pro Wrestling Personified, the Ring of Honor New Japan edition, the Impact edition.
Draws.
we've got.
I get so jealous sometimes.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then the interviews coming. That's Tuesday. Like if you go back in the archives this week, it was Brian Malona's tag team partner of Beer City Bruiser over at Ring of Honor. It's week after week, and names keep coming. I know I've got a big one coming up. I'm excited about on Friday that I got to do.
I'm super hyped about that too.
Yeah. So, and then of course there's us on Wednesday. The Gorilla Press with the Wrestling Dorks airs on Thursday. Don't miss a show, man. Just subscribe, and then every day the new shows drop. You usually pick them up. Typically they're noon, unless we do a doubleheader. One will be noon, one will be 6, give or take. So keep an eye out. And of course the schedule, it's on tappedOutPod.com, like we just were talking about. So makes it real simple to keep up with. And that's pretty much it for me, man.
Yeah, we got it all covered today.
Well, if we got everything covered, what's that mean, man?
It means it's time to tap out.